So on Fridays, I usually talk about recruiting, and I talk about some of the top recruits and everything like that coming up. But today, I wanted to discuss Kentucky's John Calipari and kind of what he's meant to college basketball and what he's meant to the Kentucky's program. Now, John Calipari, he's always been a player friendly type guy. He's always been a player first, and it shows that in his work. He was a guy who's had so many different players come out one and dones and have them make millions and millions of dollars. I mean, the list goes on with Derrick Rose, John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Nerlens Noel. Then you have Shea Gilders, Alexander. You have Malik Monk. I mean, you have so many more Devin Booker, just to name a few. Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis. He's had so many great players come out of Kentucky. And, it's funny. A lot of people say that John Calipari, he is the best recruiting coach of all time. Well, a lot of that is due to the one and done rule. The one and done rule that was created in 2005, 2006, which allowed the NBA to draft players after 1 year. So basically before it was high school players. And this actually was an unwritten rule, actually, that I think is really interesting. There was no rule that said you couldn't come out of high school in the NBA, but it was like this written rule, this unwritten rule where you would go to college and wait, and got to see that with Moses Malone being one of the first. He wasn't the first in total, but he was one of the first ever to come out of high school. And then you had Kevin Garnett. He was another person who decided not to go to college. But and then LeBron James was another one, Kobe Bryant, and there was a whole generation of players, especially in the 90s to the early 2000s, that jumped from high school to the NBA. And there was a lot of people who had issues with that because they felt like they didn't have enough experience and they didn't develop their game enough. But my thing was that I believe that NBA players should have, even if you're in high school, you should have the ability to go to the NBA because injuries can happen and stuff like that. So that's why I was like, well, you know what? You got to let them play basketball. But I will say this, the one and done rule has definitely impacted John Calipari, which has made him a great recruiter, which has made him, and he always was a good recruiter because he was a player first. But once the one and done rule came into play, we got to see the type of coach that John Calipari is. And he's an incredible coach. And even though he's only won one championship, the amount of relationships, the amount of great talent that he's had over the years is almost unmatched. And so I just wanted to shout out to John Calipari's coaching and also his recruiting. And that's really what makes him different from the rest. That's all for Let's Talk Sports with Tim McCain. Y'all have a good one. Peace.